Have you ever wondered why some people have so much, yet still feel empty, and others who have very little seem completely at peace? It doesn't make sense at first. Because we've been taught something our whole lives. More money means more security. More possessions means more success. More accumulation means more happiness. But if that were true, why are so many people still restless? Why does it never feel like enough? Maybe the problem is not how much we have. Maybe the problem is what we believe about it. Welcome to Real Deep Understanding. Take a breath. Slow down. This is not just about money. This is about what you're living for. Because there is a principle that most people hear, but very few actually understand. A principle taught by Jesus himself. And it sounds simple, almost too simple. But if you truly understand it, it will change how you see everything. Jesus said, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in or steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Pause for a moment. Let that sink in. Because this is not just advice. This is a revelation. There are two kinds of treasure, earthly and eternal. One fades, one lasts, and every single day, you are choosing between them. Not with your words, with your actions, with your money, with your priorities. This is what the treasure principle is built on. A simple but powerful truth. You can't take it with you, but you can send it ahead. Think about that. Everything you hold on to in this life will eventually leave your hands. But what you invest in eternity will never be lost. And yet, most people live as if this world is all there is. They hold tightly. They accumulate endlessly. They chase more, without ever asking why. Because it feels safe. It feels smart. It feels normal. But Jesus challenges that thinking. He turns it upside down. Because in his view, clinging is not wisdom. It is blindness. Because what you hold on to can be taken, but what you release can become eternal. That is the secret. And it is not comfortable, because it goes against everything the world teaches. The world says, protect your money. Jesus says, trust with your money. The world says, store more. Jesus says, give more. The world says, build your life around what you have. Jesus says, build your life around what lasts. And this is where many people struggle, because giving feels like losing. Letting go feels like risk. But what if it's actually the opposite? What if holding tightly is the real loss? Because when money controls your heart, it limits your life. It creates fear. Fear of not having enough. Fear of losing what you've built. Fear of falling behind, and fear keeps you stuck. But generosity breaks that. It loosens the grip. It reminds you that money is not your source. It is a tool, a temporary one. And when you begin to live this way, something shifts inside you. You stop asking, how much can I keep? And you start asking, what can I use for something greater? You stop measuring wealth by accumulation, and you begin to measure it by impact, because real wealth is not what sits in your account. It is what flows through your life. It is what you do with what you've been given. And here is something most people never realize. Your heart follows your money, not the other way around. If you invest everything into temporary things, your heart becomes attached to temporary things. But if you invest into eternal things, your heart begins to shift. It becomes lighter, clearer, more focused on what truly matters. That is why this principle is so powerful. It is not just about giving. It is about transformation. Because when you change how you handle money, you change what you value. And when you change what you value, you change your life. This is why generosity is not just an action. It is a discipline, a spiritual one. It trains your heart. It teaches you to trust. It reminds you that everything you have is temporary and that something greater is ahead. But let's be honest, this way of living is not popular. It requires going against the flow. It requires saying no when others say yes. It requires faith when others rely on control. It is quiet. It is intentional, and often it is misunderstood. But over time, it produces something the world cannot give: peace, freedom, purpose. Because when your treasure is in the right place, your heart follows. And when your heart is aligned, your life becomes clear. So ask yourself, where is your treasure right now? What are you really building? Something that fades or something that lasts? Because in the end, you will not be remembered for what you kept, but for what you gave. Take a moment. Reflect on that. If this message spoke to you, like the video, subscribe to Real Deep Understanding, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because this is a truth most people ignore, but once you understand it, you cannot unsee it. You don't need more to live a meaningful life. You need alignment. And remember, you can store up treasure on earth and lose it, or you can invest in eternity and keep it forever.